Hey, it's a great day at the Beyond Studio. It's our virtual studio, and it's time for a show we call Mondays with Matt. It's a weekly opportunity we're going to have to get inside the head of really one of higher ed's most relevant futurists. So, Matt, I want to start with picking up on one of the posts you did last week. The post is one where you basically said implementation consulting and campus transformation consulting are as different as apples and oranges. And then you followed that up with a question: is not knowing the difference costing your campus millions? So I'm assuming that schools are confusing implementation consulting and what you call campus transformation consulting. Let's help them segment the two and have a discussion around that. Opening thoughts.
Most campuses have an issue, and immediately it focuses on it has to be the technology. And immediately the CIO is tasked to look for a software to address their issues. Then that software and their socialization around software makes them go through a RFP process, which then brings in a system integrator, which is focused on the softwares, they are consulting them in terms of the path forward. But if you look at what they're actually all doing, they're road mapping them to what they do today. It's a status quo, road mapping to a status quo kind of concept.
Yeah, we hear the word used, lift and shift, right? So technology consulting, let's call that. Anytime you're doing a technology change is really it involves those kinds of consultants. And there's great ones out there, right? It's not like we're saying that consulting is bad. You just have to know that's a very different kind of implementation consulting. It's almost like if something was wrong with your bathroom, like your toilet didn't work or your sink didn't work, you're going to have someone come in and replace it. Right. So the replacement of one thing for another, or adding something or adding an extra shower or something, is this kind of consulting.
Yeah. And in that example, what they would do is replumb you. They would repipe all of your existing pipes and plumbing to make it do the same thing that you've always been doing. And that's where the investment is. If you were to build a house or renovate a house and you put all your funds into plumbing, you're not going to get a different house than what you are investing in.
Makes sense. All right. So let's call that technology consulting. And again, picture in my mind is I'm implementing software. So then what's the contrast to campus transformation consulting? How is that different? Or what are some of the traits of campus transformation consulting?
When we think about campus transformation, you have to think about outcomes. And those outcomes are going to be driven by the students. And we use the word student-centric, and we want to drive towards a student-centric campus that is really focused on the outcomes of that student. When we think about that, we have to align the whole campus to that manifesto of serving those students in a much different way. The current model, you're just bringing everyone aligned to a siloed model of putting in a software. What we're saying is you have to rethink and reimagine your campus in a way that identifies where the friction points are. And in those friction points, you're going to see what we call P3S2 is policies, procedures, people, structures, and systems are the cause of that. In some cases, the system itself is not the issue. It's the policy or the procedure. And today, we have the ability to reinvent ourselves in a much different way than we've ever had before, because the software, the AIs are much more robust and sophisticated that it allows us to reimagine a campus that we haven't been able to do in a long time.
So I think that's the contrast, right? In one case, you're replacing one thing for another or bringing something new in to do something, but it's all technology based, and there's smart people who put that stuff in for you. But those same people are incapable of doing what you just did, right? Just as excellent as they are on the implementation side, they can't guide these conversations, because some of these conversations are very uncomfortable. Changing policy, changing procedure, changing structure in order to transform the campus, really. So really what you're talking about is, on this side in campus transformation, it's much more about people and process with some technology change. And on the other side, it's only technology change with a little line item of change management, but that's really not change management. It's more like user training and some good comms.
Yeah. And the reason is many of the people that are actually putting in software, they've been certified by the vendor. So they go through a certification process that knows how the software is supposed to be configured. Many of them have never actually wore the hat of a registrar. That's the first issue that we're having with the current consulting of software, because some of them maybe have done it once at their campus. And I bet you in most cases, it was a struggle there too. So you have the issue of consultants who have never experienced the ability to transform a campus because they are just thinking about the software, putting it in because that's what they did in their current campus, if they did it at all, or they are taught by the vendor, this is the best practice that we have, without even realizing what is the future of admissions, what is the future of records, what is the future of advising. Those are the questions that make campus transformation come alive. And that's where what I call the allocation of investment has to become, because right now you're allocating it to the plumbing. You have to allocate it to the architecture. And the architecture is what's going to drive the campus in a much different way, where you then have competitive edge. You have the ability to create better user experiences. You will reinvent your campus based on the needs of your community, your students, your parents. You're going to start to even address industry. You know, whether we think about transcripts in the future, if we think about advising in the way that we interact with our students, we're going to see a much different campus. And we have to have a campus conversation as opposed to a software conversation. And if you only have a software conversation, you will always box yourself in to a lift and shift.
So let me just do a quick recap summary and then get any closing thoughts from you. Your post was about apples and oranges, right? Know your apples, know your oranges. At no point are you saying throw out the apples and only keep oranges. You're saying there's a time and place when you need software put in and you bring in those brands. We all know their names. They're phenomenal at what they do. We're big fans of them. They do software implementation and they do it really well. But I think the term you use is, let's not be delusional to believe that those same people are also going to transform your campus or transform your outcomes, right? If you're looking for transformed outcomes, like a lot of times a better student experience, the software implementation isn't going to do it. It's what you're describing here. It's getting to the nitty gritty of what are the friction points? How do we resolve them? It's hard work. Sometimes it's a year or two of hard work to make those changes. And then you bring in the technology to solve the technology related stuff, right? You bring the plumbing in a little later than when you're doing architecture. So that's kind of the difference. Know when to use what and allocate resources accordingly. Because if you go get your 20 million bucks just to put in software, you got nothing left for the actual transformation, right? Some closing thoughts?
Yeah. So Joe, when you do invest 10 million, 5 million, 20 million, 30 million, 100 million, like that's what software implementations cost some of these schools. And when you don't actually invest in the architecture of campus transformation, you will actually spend more money addressing the issues because you've never addressed the actual campus issues. So my take is, if you actually invest in the campus transformation architecture, your actual SIS implementation will be much better. You will be much more cost effective. And your software consultants will have the architecture that they will be able to design to. Because right now they're designing to your as is of your current 1990s processes. And that's what you're getting.
And that's true of not just SIS implementations, right? That's true of
HR,
student technologies, these course technologies. Before the technology comes in, there has to be a people and process transformation. And if you just go plug into technology, you'll keep getting what every other school is getting, which is more and more technology, more and more spend, no transformation. All right, Matt. Thanks for this week's post and unpacking that with us. We'll see everyone next time on Mondays with Matt.